What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey episode number 182, presented by the Barroom Network. It is the home of everything relating to the greatest sport in the world, hockey. My name is Vinnie Parisi, and I am still a believer that the New Jersey Devils are going to win the Stanley Cup. And this right here, this is Frankie Mueller, and he is the king of all beans. Frank, that is unless Elvis Merzlikins somehow makes the playoffs.
You know, those Devils are off to a good start, aren't they?
Oh, they sure are. Oh, dude. Oh,
President right now, right?
You can. I think second to Winnipeg.
Oh,
but like they're up there. They've played a couple more games than everybody else. I don't care about that though. I almost don't want it. No, I would say I do not want it. Good afternoon to Tom and Paula. Love you guys. But this Merzlikins, every now and again, like a goalie who you don't really expect it from, just makes 45 saves in a row. And like some of them, like Jack Hughes, wide open net, Merzlikins dives across. Luke Hughes gets stuffed by Merzlikins' pads when it was a wide open net, and Merzlikins like sticks out his pad. He looks like freaking Barishnikov out there skating. It was a crazy game. I mean, I've never seen the Devils get goalied more than they did yesterday.
Yeah, and you know, this is kind of the start we expected them to have, a rebound season.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good for the Devils, VP.
Would you consider them a cup contender?
Yeah.
I think so. Now that you have goaltending that you trust, like every time they lose, you can argue they should have won, which is kind of what good teams do. Every now and again you get your ass kicked. Like, what was it? They got their ass kicked recently. Who did they play where they just got beat? I think it might have been St. Louis. Like a couple, they beat St. Louis the most recent time, but the time before that they played them in New Jersey, they just got their ass kicked. Sometimes that happens.
Well, to the Blue Jackets too. What was the final score?
It was 4-2. I would not say they got their ass kicked. They were
getting their ass kicked
on the scoreboard.
Yeah,
shots were 40-10. And Merzlikins was just unbelievable. That's a game. That's a game where, like, you know, like I said, every now and again you get your ass kicked. But when you're an elite team like that, most of the time when you lose, something happens where, like, you probably can point to, and like if this went different, they would have won. They were losing 3-0, and they were out shooting them 40-10, and there were some highway robbery saves. You should go back and look at some of Markstrom's saves, and then they get 2 goals in the final 5 minutes, make it interesting, and then the Blue Jackets find the empty net, win 4-2. I mean, it was a crazy game. It's probably the greatest performance I've ever seen from Jack Hughes, and he comes away with 1 lousy assist. Buddy had 13 shots on goal. 13 shots on goal.
That happens sometimes, you know.
That's just crazy. It's crazy. So I'm happy with it. Your Chicago Blackhawks, 3 in a row for the first time in the Connor Bedard era. In fact, the last time the Blackhawks won 3 in a row, it was Patrick Kane's last 3 games with the Blackhawks. What do you think?
They look a lot better since the coaching change. Yeah. They do. They're playing with fire. The offense is clicking a little bit more. They're scoring the first goal of the game a ton. It just seems like every game they score the first goal of the game. I think that benefits a team like them playing from ahead. However, against the Capitals, they were actually 2 goals behind, and they came back. So that was a case they didn't. And I think earlier in the season, that Blackhawks team would have lost 5-1 or 5-0, and they fought back. Though they fought back with fire. I love what I'm seeing out of this team, and this is kind of what I wanted to see for the whole year. But I'll get it now. I'll take it.
One thing I didn't expect, so Kevin Korchinski in his rookie year was very up and down. And so I thought this year he'd probably play the whole year in Rockford. Like, why not? Yeah. And he started off really well in Rockford. I'm thinking to myself, why not just keep him there? And then they called him up, and I'm like, I don't know if I agree with this move. But it coincided kind of with firing Richardson, and they brought in Anders, who was his coach in Rockford. And you can argue that Korchinski's been their second best defenseman behind Vlasic since he got called up, and Nolan Allen too. So I think the Blackhawks are like severely lacking a second elite forward prospect. Nazar's great. Do I think he's going to be elite? No. Connor Bedard, I believe, is elite. Nazar's high end. He could be an all-star. Super elite though. I don't know about that. I think they need one more great forward prospect to go with Bedard and Nazar. They're set on defense, dude. I mean, the fact that right now Levchinov is like number 4 on my list of Blackhawks prospect defensemen, whether they're in the young defensemen, I guess I should say, under 23, that's crazy. Because I think Vlasic could make Team USA for the Olympics next year. And Nolan and Korchinski are dogs.
That Soderblom's been great.
Oh, Soderblom. Listen, I warned you about Soderblom. I told you, don't put any bad film on there. Spewing any takes about a young Soderblom and how much you think he stinks and is not the answer. Goalie prospects are tough, man. They just one day it clicks. One day it clicks. One stinker against the Islanders, but other than that, he's been awesome this year.
I actually don't think the Hawks are the worst team in the league. Maybe on paper, but I don't think they're the worst team in the league.
I don't think they are. I think they are.
I think Buffalo is, to be honest. They're in a rough patch right now. They got talented players, right? But I don't know.
Here's what having a bad start can do for you, though. You win 3 in a row, you're still 1 point removed from being in 32nd place. And that's what we talked about a couple years ago, like making up points. When they started 0-9-0 and they fired the coach and brought in Derek King and won a couple in a row and it made up 0 ground in the standings, I'm like,
but they look better and they're playing teams tough. They're beating top teams.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
That's the difference from last year. They're that competitive, fun team to watch this year, where they weren't last year. They were like, it was pitiful to watch last year.
100%. They have beaten Washington, 4th in the league, Minnesota, 5th in the league, Los Angeles, 6th in the league, Florida, 8th in the league, Edmonton, 10th in the league, Dallas, 12th in the league, Colorado, 14th in the league.
And Washington.
I said Washington first.
Oh, you did?
4th in the league. And then first in the league, Winnipeg, they had an overtime 2-1 thriller. And against New Jersey, 3rd in the league. I didn't realize Vegas tied New Jersey in points yesterday. New Jersey, 3rd in the league. They had a 1-0 lead going into the 3rd and choked. The Devils poured it on in the 3rd, like, of course. But, I mean, good games against good teams. They beat the Avalanche. They beat the Rangers, who have fallen way out of the top 20. But, yeah, it's been a good go for the Hawks lately. So, speaking of the New York Rangers, Frank, I feel like we talk negatively about them every single show. And it's not just because I'm a Devils fan. It's because they've actually, like, kind of warranted it because we talked highly of them last year. Another trade for the New York Rangers. They trade Capo Caco to the Seattle Kraken for a defenseman, a 3rd-round pick, and a 6th-round pick in 2025. Your thoughts on the big news?
The Rangers, they've been making moves. Second trade in the past 3 weeks. They're clearly trying to fix some problems that they're having, but nothing's working. This team still stinks. I hate this trade for the Rangers. The Rangers made this move in hopes that Will Borgen helps the Rangers out defensively and fixes some of those defensive issues. However, I think they made their defense worse, actually. Will Borgen is statistically been one of the worst defensemen in the NHL this season. Capo, yeah, he's not lived up to his 2nd overall hype by any means. He's not been this breath of fresh air for the Rangers. But is the potential still there? Yeah, I think it can be found. And I think the Kraken fleeced the Rangers in this trade because of that potential that he could find with new life with the new team. To me, this trade doesn't make a whole lot of sense from a Rangers standpoint. I think it made their problems worse. I don't think it's going to help them at all.
I agree. I like the trade better for the Kraken. I liked it better before watching a game last night, though. I will say that. Like, so when the trade was first announced, right? It was announced while I was visiting my wedding venue. So to see what it looked like around Christmas time, real nice stuff. I'm like, oh, Capo Caco got traded. I hate that for the Rangers. Horrible. Why would you do that? Why didn't you trade him last summer when there were reports that the Ducks were willing to move, or I guess even last season, I remember there was like a rumor, like a heavy rumor from good sources that had like Adam Henrique and Frank Vetrano going back to the Rangers and Capo Caco being one of the pieces that went back to the Ducks. Well, it wouldn't have only been Capo Caco for Frank Vetrano and Adam Henrique. There would have been more going back for the Rangers. It probably would have included a 1st or 2nd round pick with Caco because Vetrano's a stud. Adam Henrique is a great depth piece, but I think you might even remember kind of those trade rumors between the Rangers and the Ducks. The Rangers wanted Henrique bad for a 3rd line center, and then you had a scorer like Vetrano, like holy smokes. but that ended up not happening. And now you get like a depth third pair right shot defenseman, which the Rangers do need a depth third pair right shot defenseman. But I'm just this guy's not the guy I ever would have thought. I did like the idea of Capo Caco going to the Kraken, but then after watching yesterday, I'm like, I still like the trade better for the Kraken. Like, don't get me wrong on anything I'm about to say. Like, would make the trade for the Kraken. The way they play, I'm not positive that it fits the way Caco plays. I'm not sure they're going to be the team that unlocks him. I wouldn't be shocked if, like, on his third team, he like started to find his way a little bit, similar to like a Dylan Strome. It wouldn't shock me if he has a little bit of success, but Seattle's a very skating orientated team. Coach in NHL history, Seattle, and then Dan Bylsma, both of them run a system where it's like very skating orientated. We're going to skate around you, similar to what the Devils do. But the Devils have Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt and Timo Meier. The high-end skill isn't there on Seattle. So I'm not sure that they're going to like fully unlock Caco. But here's the thing. You didn't give up that much for an NHL forward. You said it best. He didn't live up to being the second overall pick, right? And the video of the New York Rangers fans cheering when the Devils selected Jack Hughes, meaning they got Capo Caco, they're all a bunch of fools. That video should be deleted off the internet from existence forever if I'm the Rangers. But he's still a very good defensive forward. There are very few goals scored against when he's on the ice. You can like look at the advanced statistics. He's been outstanding defensively. So I think that'll help Seattle. I worry Seattle has a couple too many high draft picks that are just like defensive-minded forwards now. Like Shane Wright, who's kind of coming out of his shell a little bit. I still have hope for Shane Wright. Beniers won the Calder Trophy and then has mostly struggled since. And then you got Caco. All guys drafted in the top four. And not necessarily living up to their offensive hype. So I like Capo Caco. I hope he does kind of find his way, his sniping ways that he showed with Finland in the World Championships and the World Juniors a couple years ago. I mean, there were a couple people. I remember, I could probably do some deep digging. There were a couple people in my mentions that actually believed the Devils should take Caco instead of Hughes. And that would have just been insane if that ended up happening, back then. Like, they wouldn't be where they are right now if that would be the case. But I don't know. I think it's a better trade for Seattle. I hope they unlock him a little bit more than I kind of fear that they won't.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if the Kraken are that team, but I'm more so focusing on the point that the Rangers made their problems worse, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Like bad. Like really bad. He's not been great. So I don't know what the Rangers see, and maybe the Rangers saw this as an opportunity as he's not fitting under Dan Bylsma's system. And maybe the Rangers system plays to him better. I don't know. I just think it was awful. I think it was awful. It could be one of the worst trades the Rangers have ever made.
Yeah. And what's his name again? Will Borgen?
Yeah.
Could he come to the Rangers and because he's fitting in exactly with what they need? Third pair right shot defenseman. Keandre Miller hasn't played that well this season. Really outside of Fox, no Rangers defenseman has played that well this season, and Fox still hasn't even been his true self. Does Fox still not have a goal? I think there's a chance Fox doesn't have a goal yet.
I don't think he does. No.
Which is crazy. Which he's got like 30 assists. Like, I'm not pooing on Fox. He's great, but he don't have one goal yet. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, the Rangers are a mess. They are currently in 23rd place in the NHL, and the New Jersey Devils have 13 more points than them. Just saying. I just
not really surprised. I feel like even if the Rangers were playing good, the Devils would have more points than them.
Yeah, but 13?
No, they wouldn't have 13, but they would be leading by at least 5, you would think.
Yeah, even last year in February, if you said, I'll trade you every player on the Rangers and in the Rangers organization for every player on the Devils and in the Devils organization, I think 32 out of 32 GMs would say no.
Yeah.
If you're the Devils. Like, without question. Kreider's getting older. Zibanejad's getting older. Panarin's getting older. All these guys are playing okay, especially Panarin playing better than okay. But I didn't, yeah. And I realized yesterday, because they did every time there's an original 6-game looming, the Blackhawks post like a come check out this original 6 matchup, like they extra promote it. I didn't realize the Rangers were coming to Chicago on January 5th. A little 2 p.m. matinee action. Very excited to see the Rangers in person. I have only seen them in person in New York. I've never seen them in person in Chicago.
Would that have made all original 6 teams you've seen?
I have seen the Leafs. I've seen the Habs. I've seen the Hawks. I've seen the Bruins.
Yeah.
And I've seen
Detroit.
I've seen all original 6 teams. I'm actually keeping a log on every team I've seen so far this season. And I got to add the last couple games to it. But Blackhawks, Sharks, Predators, Panthers, Stars, Wild, Blue Jackets, Canucks, Red Wings, and then the last week or so worth of games I got to add. But I'm going to miss Buffalo this season because I'm the only game I didn't go to yet so far this year was against the Sabres, and they're not coming back. But I have seen them before in my life. I think I've seen Buffalo before in my life. Yeah, I totally have. I remember when Jason Pominville and Vanek were on the team. That's the last time I saw Buffalo in person. But
Buffalo Hawks Stanley Cup. Maybe you'll see them again this year.
Yeah, in freaking 10 years. The Hawks will make playoffs before the Sabres.
That's what I asked you.
You asked me a couple weeks ago, though, will they make playoffs before all 3 of the Bermuda Triangle of teams that have been bad and trying to make the playoffs? The take about them making it before all 3 of them is looking a little rough.
Worried about Detroit?
No, I'm worried about Ottawa. They're in a playoff spot as we enter play tonight. They are 17-13-2. They are 7-2-1 in their last 10, and they have won 5 in a row.
Yeah, they've been good.
And who below them scares you to the point where you're just like, there's no way Ottawa hangs on to that spot. Directly below them is Pittsburgh, Philly, New York, Columbus.
I mean, if one of those teams could find it.
Yeah, of course. Like if Crosby went on a 15-game heater and 4 points yesterday, big win for the Pens. They're better than I thought they'd be. The Penguins. Even if they miss playoffs, they're better than I thought. I thought they'd be down in the dumps with Buffalo. And they just aren't. They're 15-14-5. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10, have won 2 in a row. Like Pittsburgh's good again.
They've picked it up.
Yep, they have picked it up. And guess who New Jersey's next opponent is? The Pittsburgh Penguins on Saturday night. Very excited. Very excited for Devils Penguins though. I can't wait. That when the Devils and Penguins used to play when I was like way younger, like high school younger, that was my favorite matchup. Prime Zach Parise, prime Ilya Kovalchuk going up against Crosby and Malkin. Then it kind of flipped. Like they just started to dominate for a long time, won a couple cups, Crosby, Malkin, Letang. And then the Devils sucked, but now the Devils are real good. The Penguins are just middling. So that'll be a good matchup. Frank, another team I kind of wanted to get where you are on, and I want you to be so serious right here. Just
I'm always serious.
put the jokes. You're not. Put all the jokes aside. No, you're not. Put all the jokes aside for 5 minutes. I want to hear what you actually think of the 20-10-2, 7-3-0 in their last 10 Toronto Maple Leafs.
Listen. They're very good, right? To many people,
very good.
Listen, in our preseason picks, I chose them to win the division.
Hell, you went back to his division pick? He's bringing the heat.
I did, though. I chose them to win the division. I give the Maple Leafs a lot of heat. But, and listen, all kidding aside, it's not because of what they do in the regular season. It's what they do beyond the regular season, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. When I take a look at this Leafs lineup, I like what I see. You have 4 really solid lines. You got a good enough defense. Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. They've been sensational. To go into Dallas and win 5-3, that's something to be proud of. Especially in a game you were outplayed the entire game. You had 19 shots on goal. You still managed to score 5 goals. And they really stepped it up at home this year. The past handful of years, you could always expect a letdown at home from the Toronto Maple Leafs. I thought for sure When the Leafs were home against the Blackhawks were going to get the best of them because it always seems like in years past they lay an egg at home. They're 14-4-0 at home this season. They've been dominant. It's just one of those things that the past is ingrained in my head that I can't stop thinking about them getting bounced in the first round, no matter how good they are. That's the thing for me. But they've been great.
I'm going to name a playoff opponent for them potentially this year, and you're going to say if they were playing each other right now, who would you pick?
See, this is a bad game. This is a bad game.
It's not a bad game. It's a great game. Nope, it's a great game.
There's no team I pick over them in the playoffs, I think.
Okay.
So that's why
if the season ended today, the Maple Leafs would be playing the Bruins in the first round.
And I would take the Bruins.
And the Bruins are a wild card team. They have 4 fewer points. You would take the Bruins.
The only team I would take ahead of them, or the only team is like you get like an Ottawa in there or something.
Well, that's the thing. If the season ended today, the Metropolitan winning Devils would get Ottawa in the first.
So go ahead, read them.
Okay. I guess if they're possible playoff opponents, New York Rangers.
I take the Leafs.
Philadelphia Flyers.
I guess I'd take the Leafs.
Okay. Pittsburgh Penguins.
I think I'd go with the Pens. Honestly.
Okay. Ottawa.
Yeah, Leafs.
Bruins. Lightning. Panthers. All right. You're on crack, but
I'm on crack.
The Penguins, dude.
Literally, Sidney Crosby knows how to win those types of matchups.
But the Leafs have won a playoff series now, though. Like
they've
it's not
won
like
one, but they don't do anything, dude. They're not clutch.
They lost in the second round to Florida,
Austin
who
Matthews
went to the Cup.
Yet to proven he's clutch in the playoffs.
Fair. That's fair.
The whole team.
That's fair. It feels different this year.
It always feels different. It always feels different.
No, this year they got great defense. All 4 lines are scoring. We've never said that. Their goaltending has been astute. Like, we've never said all 3 of those things. We haven't. We've had something to pick apart about them every year, and I can't pick apart any single thing of the team.
We know Wool is the goalie of the future potentially for them. But is Stolarz really that good of a backup?
He's been amazing.
I know. He had a good year last year too.
Okay, so when is it a pattern more than a spell?
I don't know. It's just I can't get over it. I just can't get over their woes in the playoffs.
Now there are people though that would have said the same thing about the Cubs in 2016 going into the playoffs. Yeah. Like, hey, they finally won a playoff series last year, though. I don't care. That's one series. They haven't done anything. And then they roll their you-know-what across the table in 2016, and basically it's not close against anybody other than Cleveland. And if any other manager besides freaking Joe Madden was their manager, they would have swept Cleveland. No, they would have won in 5. It's crazy.
No, I get it.
Washington, perennial chokers. I remember seeing pictures of people photoshopping Ovechkin doing the Heimlich maneuver. They finally got it done. The Blues, 1 year later, the 2 biggest choking teams in the league every year, no matter what. The Blues and the Capitals were what we see the Maple Leafs as. The Capitals are never going to beat the Penguins. They're never going to beat them. No way. And then Kuznetsov in overtime in Game 6, they end up going all the way to the final and beating Vegas. It's got to end sometime. It's got to end sometime.
But it just feels like till that happens, you don't gain that level of respect until it happens.
I understand. The only team I'm picking over the Leafs if they match in the first round is Boston.
That's crazy.
That's the only team. I'm picking them against Florida. They're not going to win back-to-back cups. The cup champions lose in the first round every year. When's the last time the cup champs got to the second round?
It's like you said, that something's got to change.
Vegas got destroyed this year, or last year, I guess I could say now. The year before that, Tampa Bay out to the Leafs.
The Hawks did it.
The Avalanche lost to the Kraken. as the Stanley Cup champions, yeah, okay. That's Frank. The Hawks haven't won a playoff series in 10 years.
I mean,
That's a long time ago.
They beat Edmonton, technically it counts.
Okay.
I mean, when they mention it, they say their last playoff victory was in the bubble.
Yeah. It's not that they won in the bubble. Like, I very much validate the playoffs. It's considering the play-in portion of it as playoffs. That to me is like, okay.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Okay. That's fair. No. You know what? Fair.
I don't make the rules.
That's fair. I very much believe Tampa Bay has a valid Stanley Cup championship.
Right.
The Stars have a very valid Western Conference championship that year. Every team that made it far, Vegas to the conference finals, Montreal, I forget who else. That was the following year, Montreal. They should be it's the play-in being considered like a legit playoff win for me. And if that weren't like, how did the Blackhawks beat the Oilers? That was crazy.
They always play the Oilers tough. They beat them this year.
Yeah, I know, but in a playoff series, like, how did they do that? Like, Duncan Keith was a shell of himself. Brent Seabrook played. I think Corey Crawford was gone. No, that was Corey Crawford's last series.
Yeah, I mean,
or last kind of stint. Because remember that offseason, he signed with the Devils and then retired during training camp?
Yeah.
Oh, Crawford. Devils legend. That's funny. Yeah, I like the Maple Leafs right now, dude. They're good.
Mm-hmm.
They're deep.
Then
Matthew Nyes is sick.
We'll talk about them later on.
And we'll see who they trade for.
And then the next year they'll make a big trade. They'll have a great team ready. It's like a broken record. The same things over and over.
What would you say if they used Tavares' money on McDavid in free agency? Would it change anything for you?
If they got McDavid, yeah.
Would you not care about any curse or anything like that? You'd be like, okay.
Just this team, it's like that. Yeah, it would change.
They have $11 million coming off the books the same year that Toronto-born Connor McDavid is a free agent. That to me, or the year before, that to me is like, it's not a 0% chance. I don't think it's a 0% chance.
I don't think McDavid's leaving Edmonton for a while.
I don't either. Again, I'm not saying it's a good chance. It's not 0, though. McDavid's hometown team, coincidentally having 11 schmil coming off the books the year before he's a free agent, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they try. It's basically, if McDavid wants to go to the Leafs, they will have the resources to do it.
I get what you're saying.
And that's why the Oilers were really smart for extending Draisaitl, because I still think they can be a contender with him as their main guy. Will they win the cup? No. I don't know. If they lost McDavid, that'd be tough.
That'd be tough.
That'd be very tough. But they still have really, really good players. As far as I know, the last forever Stanley Cup champions didn't have McDavid on their team. So
it's true.
You can win. And hey, the Oilers traded Gretzky away and won the Stanley Cup for the 5th year in a row that year, which is crazy. So they had some really good players too. So Frank, another team I kind of just am quickly curious on what your thoughts are on them. Colorado. What are your thoughts on the Colorado Avalanche, who for the most part this season have not been the powerhouse that many believe that they are? They will enter the weekend 19-5-0, 38 points. They are currently in the second wild card spot in the Western Conference. If the season were to end today, they would play the Winnipeg Jets again in the first round, who they beat in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, so we had slightly different opinions when it came to the Avalanche this season coming into the year. I think you thought they had missed the playoffs, I'm pretty sure, right? Altogether? Or is that a different team I'm thinking of?
I definitely remember picking them to not be one of the top 3 in the Central Division, but I thought it would be Nashville
Utah over them, and right?
I think I definitely put Utah in the playoffs, but I since redacted
I don't
Utah because of their defensemen.
I had the Wild, and you didn't have the Wild.
We both had Nashville,
right?
Which,
so I don't know, but I know I had them as 4th. the Avalanche. I didn't think they'd be super dominant this year.
Probably about where I had them too.
So,
which is where they are right now.
Right. We're both kind of right in a way with where they are currently in the standings. But here's where I am with this team. I think this team's still very good. However, I think they're very top heavy. Your 3 leading scorers are the duds, McKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar. If you pluck 2 of those 3 off the team, I think this is one of the worst teams in the NHL, which is a bit scary to think about. If you look at their stats, no one on the team is really producing. This team had to scratch and claw and get a win against the Sharks last night. It wasn't certain they'd come out with the win. This team is a lot different than the one team they had when they won the Stanley Cup. That was one of the craziest teams where you just knew they were going to win the Stanley Cup, right? They were a team you can never count out, no matter what the score was. I always said they were that level above an NHL team in my eyes. If there was such a thing, it's a very rare thing to say. They're just not anywhere near that right now. But with that being said, would I want to play this team in the postseason? No, I would not want to play McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, any of these guys in the postseason. They know what it's like to win a Stanley Cup. They know what it takes. I would not want to see them in the Stanley Cup or playoffs, no matter what seed they are. But they don't scare me either, where you see them on the schedule and like, we got to play the Colorado Avalanche. It's like, we got to play the Avalanche. I know they're going to play them tough, but they don't instill that fear into me like they used to.
Totally understand. I feel the same way. They have the 3 Hall of Famers. We'll see if Landeskog comes back. If he doesn't come back this season, he's not coming back. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. I don't know that for a fact. I don't want to speak out of tone. I mean, no disrespect. I just believe in my heart that if he doesn't come back this season, he's not coming back. The last game he played was the game that the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup in 2022.
It's probably over.
He's trying to come back this year. That is a fact. That is non-negotiable. But if he doesn't make it back this year, he's probably done. I'd be stunned if he came back and didn't play this year. So we'll see what they do. I do think the Western Conference is already starting to narrow down, where I named the teams in the East that I think could still make it. Really, I only think Montreal and Buffalo are cooked. They're the only team still in the 20s for points. I think every team in the 30s, like the second wild card seed, Ottawa, 36 points. 8th wild card spot, which is, 14th in the conference, 30 points. Detroit could win 5 in a row and be right there.
Speaking of Detroit, Thomas Gates said, will Kane catch Roenick in lifetime game-winning goals? I'd say no.
Absolutely no. Yeah, he won't get within 10.
No, yeah, that's tough. A game-winning goal is very hard.
Yeah.
Let alone 14 now.
For sure not. I could see Detroit, New York Islanders, Columbus, New York Rangers, Philly, Pittsburgh. None of those teams are dead. Do I think most of them will make it? No, of course not. Because really only one of them can.
Right.
But could it be any one of them? Yes, that I do believe. In the West, I don't know. Colorado holds that final wild card spot. Vancouver's having a real weird season. They're in the top wild card spot, but I still think their skill prevails. Then right below the playoff line, you have Calgary, Utah, St. Louis, Seattle, Anaheim, San Jose, Chicago, Nashville. St. Louis, 33 points. They're 5 points behind Colorado. Utah has 35 points, but they've played 3 less games than St. Louis. St. Louis, 33 points in 34 games. Seattle, 32 points in 34 games. From Seattle and down, done. I think the Western Conference, one of Calgary, Utah, Colorado will get that final spot. I really think by February the Western Conference will be mostly wrapped up. I think Utah and Calgary have a chance. I think Utah has a better chance because their points percentage is actually higher than Colorado and Calgary. They're starting to get healthy. Sergachev's been elite since coming back. I had him in the playoffs in the preseason. Then their top 4 all got hurt, and I think if any team in the league's top 4 got hurt, they would lose a majority of the games the rest of the season. Take the top 4 off of every team in the league. I think they struggle the rest of the way. Who's the best team? Winnipeg? Devils. Take Hamilton, Luke Hughes, Kovacevic, and Siegenthaler, and Brett Pesce off the team right now. They're losing 7 out of 10 the rest of the way. wholeheartedly think like you just can't overcome that. Take Seabrook, Keith, Yalmerson, and Oduya off the Hawks in 2013 at the same time for 20 games. They're losing 7 out of every 10 games. Maybe more. It's just so hard to overcome that. Utah's getting a little healthy now. Sergachev back. We'll see what happens the rest of the way. But I definitely think the skill is there up front. Gunther is unbelievable. Logan Cooley's getting real hot. A lot of fantasy websites that I read, including our very own Hockey News, in their fantasy section, loving Logan Cooley for the weekend slate of games. If he's a free agent in your league, highly recommend. The Blues are trash. Devils destroyed them. I think the Hawks win the Winter Classic. I hope the Hawks win the Winter Classic. But I think they can. Which, Frank, you know what happened to me yesterday? I'm standing there waiting. And all of a sudden, here comes Darren Pang. I never met Panger before. And he walks up and he starts talking to the guy next to me. And when he's done talking to him, he looks at me and goes, "How you doing?" And I stuck out my hand and said, "Darren, very nice to meet you." He goes, "And what's your name?" And I said, like I'm a little kid. He goes, "And what's your name?" And I go, "My name's Vinny. Very nice to meet you." And then he started talking about, the game tonight. And I was like, "So Darren, are you going to the Winter Classic?" And he goes, "Yeah, Brian Boucher is inside the glass on TNT, but I'll be doing player interviews in the middle of the game."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, that's like really cool insight to get. Like you wouldn't know that till game. Like we wouldn't know that till game of if he didn't tell me that."
Right.
And I was like, "No alumni game this year?" And he goes, "Oh, you remember that, huh?" Because he played in the alumni game for the Blues when they played at Busch Stadium. And I didn't realize they got rid of that. They haven't done it in like a couple years. And he said that, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I don't remember the Devils and Flyers having an alumni game last year or anything like that." So yeah, that's crazy, but
it's pretty interesting.
Very interesting. Got to meet Panger, small little guy.
I'm tiny. I think I knew that. I think he's a
but like, I'm a short guy, but I got a little meat, so I feel like I'm a little more balanced out. He's just paper thin. So very nice to meet Panger. Love Panger. Frank, I wrote down about Edmonton being back. We talked about them a little bit, kind of by accident. They're 19-11-2, 40 points. They're 8-2-0 in their last 10. So I ask you, is Edmonton back? They had a little stinker a couple nights ago against Florida, but for the most part, dominating everyone they play. Even Dallas. The fact they motored down Dallas was unbelievable.
They could be back to their mid to end season form like they were last year. They started out slow once again.
Third year in a row.
Now they've been cooking. They score a ton of goals. They win a lot of their games by outscoring their opponents. They don't have the best defensive goalie system there is. I mean, they're going to play. They lost 6-5 to Florida. They're going to play a lot of high-scoring games and lose those games. I mean, it's going to happen with this team. The one thing remains for me, as I always say, Stuart Skinner, he's just a great goaltender. He's a great goaltender. He's not elite. In my eyes.
But you can win the cup with him.
Yeah, I was getting there. The Oilers were one win away from winning the Stanley Cup with Stuart Skinner. I get that, trust me. But if they did what the Devils did and went out and got a goalie like that of that caliber, it would be hard not to see them winning the Stanley Cup, right? But the Oilers aren't going to do that. That's not on their agenda like it was the Devils, because they could win a Stanley Cup with Stuart Skinner. And we believe that, and they believe that. But I just think that's the one thing that's truly holding them back from really being all but a guarantee for surely winning a Stanley Cup. That's what I feel about him. I think he's why try to play these games where you got to win them by outscoring your opponents when you could go out and get a goaltender and really clamp down and win these games 5-1 almost every night.
We had the Yankees versus the Dodgers in the World Series.
That's all I'll say.
Arguably the most entertaining possible outcome in terms of like star power. The most entertaining possible outcome in terms of star power. Now, I would root for the Devils no matter what, obviously. But if it's not the Devils this year, if they're still a year away, they lose a tough playoff series in 7 games, whatever. The NHL version of that this year is Edmonton versus Toronto. And I can't stress how much of a meaty, sugary, tasty, delicious meal that would be if Edmonton played Toronto in the Stanley Cup final. Feed me that matchup in the Stanley Cup final. Feed it to me with a spoon. Edmonton is so back. Connor McDavid, he might just F around and win the scoring title. He like nerfs himself by having like a little injury in October. Like, hey, I got to catch up. And he just goes off and tying the game late against the Bruins yesterday, ultimately leading to the overtime win for Edmonton. I mean, just unbelievable stuff. Draisaitl's cooking. Zach Hyman took a puck off his nose, and it looks like he's made of machine now. Did you see that replay? That's one of the scariest pucks to the face I've ever seen. He took a slap shot, flush to the nose. I mean, I've never seen I've seen stuff like it, but like, my God, was that just horrifying looking. And he's got it like made red under his eyes, even though it hit him.
He didn't break it.
He did. He 100% did. There's no way he didn't. Nobody says anything. If you break your nose, like, there's nothing you can do. Like, you don't wear a cast you could play still. It probably freaking hurts all the time, but like, you could play. He definitely broke it. He's probably going to have a dysfunction. Most hockey players do have a little something with their nose, like been hit with a puck at least once. But I got hit with a ball. My nose is a little curved. I didn't break it, but like there's a little curve to it from a time I took one to the face. It
happens if you're a sports guy, you know?
Well, it wasn't even during a game either. I was so mad. I was playing catch, and someone jumped in front of the ball, and we've used to throw hard when we played catch.
Mm-hmm.
To warm up. And someone jumped in to like try and intercept the ball to be funny. And it tipped off their mitt like a hockey tip and redirected. And I didn't react quick enough, and it hit me in the freaking nose.
See, when you fool around, you get hurt.
It bled for hours. One of the worst bloody noses. It didn't break, but definitely some nose trouble in my life with that. Frank, let's wrap up the show with a couple things first.
By the way, really quick, Panger's 5'4".
5'4", yeah. I mean,
small for a hockey guy, very small.
A goalie too, and we've gotten smarter as a human being, people over every topic of conversation throughout the last 200 years. One of the things that I think we got smarter in hockey is we started accepting bigger goaltenders, because Panger played in an era where all the goaltenders were small and agile, but all the forwards were big and mean and strong. And now we kind of play in a world where, like, we realize, like, well, why not have a Vasilevsky who covers 99% of the net no matter where he's standing? And why not have a small forward who can, like, dance around everybody and use his super skills? So, yeah, Panger being that small as a goalie, it would be unheard of in today's world. He probably would have played forward had he come up. I mean, 5'4" is like, I don't even know if there's a forward 5. How tall was Gerby? If Tom could look up how tall Nathan Gerby was, that would be amazing for us. I'm curious about that. But, Frank, college football playoff. Let's roll through each game, say why we think each team's going to win, and then we could roll into you doing breaking bets. We'll start with SMU versus Penn State. What do you got for me?
SMU, they won the ACC championship. And the funny thing is, I think if this game was I think because this game's being played at 11 o'clock in the morning, I think SMU has a chance. However, I think Penn State comes away with this win in a tight game. SMU, they just turn the ball over too much. You can't afford to do that in a playoff game. There's just too much on the line. Drew Allard has been sensational, but don't be surprised if SMU steals this one away. Penn State looked really good against Oregon, and I don't think a team like SMU has it in the tank to pick up a college football playoff win. Usually, like teams like SMU don't excel in these types of games, these big games, mainly because they never really get there in the first place. But I'm taking Penn State. I'm
also taking Penn State. I think if you're Penn State, you got to be licking your chops, because you lost the Big Ten championship game to Oregon, but now Oregon has to play the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee. You'd almost rather be Penn State and go on. Who would they play? Now I'm drawing a blank on who I have pictures.
Do you want? I could pull up the bracket really quick if you want.
Yeah, please. I forget that it's definitely an easier matchup than Oregon. will have playing the winner of Ohio State versus Tennessee. And it's almost like, well,
Boise State.
yeah. So who would you rather play? The winner of Ohio State and Tennessee or Boise
Right.
State? You'd rather play Boise State. So Penn State almost won by losing the Big Ten championship. I hate saying that, but it kind of is what it is in my opinion. So I got Penn State. I'd be licking my chops if I were them. I'd be putting my whole heart and soul into beating SMU because a appearance in the Final Four could be there for the taking
Possible.
if you get it done. The big game tonight. Between the two teams from Indiana, you have IU, the University of Indiana, versus Notre Dame. Frank, who will win the battle of teams that NIU can beat?
Yeah, that's really funny, actually. Ever since Notre Dame lost to NIU, this has been a completely different team. Notre Dame leads the nation in a scoring margin at plus 26.3. I think Notre Dame is better than Ohio State, and Ohio State beat the brakes off of Indiana. Indiana had a great season at 11-1, but they don't match up well against Notre Dame. I cannot see Indiana getting the win here.
NIU Huskies forever. In order to have a close game with the Huskies, you have to be damn good. So that's obviously going to be the reason that Notre Dame gets the win and keeps the legacy of that great NIU victory over them alive. Go Notre Dame, Fighting Irish.
Yeah.
Next, you have the Battle of the Oranges. They should have just called this the Orange Bowl. You have Clemson versus Texas. Who takes this one? And probably... No, I would go there's one more that's slightly more intriguing than this one, but this is a good one. Clemson versus Texas.
This is good, right? This is very interesting. Clemson's been here and done that. They're the only 3-loss team in the college football playoff this year. However, they've been here and done that. Like I said, Dabo Swinney has won 2 national championships with Clemson. He is their all-time winningest coach, and he knows how to win college football playoff games. On the other hand, you got Quinn Ewers, one of the best quarterbacks in college. Texas has been dominant all year, and the only team that has proven that they could beat them has been Georgia, who's done it twice. Those are their only 2 losses, has came to Georgia. No other team has been able to beat Texas and dominate them, and Texas defense is too good. Their offense is going to penetrate Clemson's defense before Clemson can put points on the board. I think Texas wins this one.
I also think Texas wins it. I'm not an Ewers guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like him.
I like him. He's fun. Like, I like him. He just doesn't move the needle for me. If he's a first-round draft pick, I think that'll be a mistake. Not big on him, honestly. I'm just not. But I think he's very good in college football. The tools don't jump off the screen at me the way that some others have in the past. I hope I'm wrong because I root for everyone to have success. Unless you're an a-hole, I root for you to have success. So, but in this game, I got Texas.
Okay.
Then the big boy, I think, in my opinion, you have Tennessee versus Ohio State. Frank, Ohio State was unable to get the big win over Michigan, but they found their way into the college football playoff regardless. What do you got in this one?
Oh, VP. I've actually watched my fair share of Tennessee games this year, and every time I watch them, they don't impress me. They don't. I think they're poorly coached. I think there are some decisions made during the games that are kind of a head scratcher. I think Will Howard is better than Iamaleava, the quarterback for Tennessee. I mean, Ohio State could choke this away, right? But coming off a loss to Michigan, I think they're going to rebound and pick up the victory here. It also helps that these games aren't at a neutral site, right? I'm pretty sure every game the higher ranked seed is home. So I think that's going to benefit them as well. So I'm going to go Ohio State. And I hate doing this, that I pick chalk in literally every matchup.
That's college football in certain matchups.
But not always, though. Not when you get 2 ranked teams against each other this close, I just feel like there is an upset. I feel like if there is one upset, it's going to be SMU against Penn State. But Ohio State in this one.
See, my one upset potential is Indiana.
Wow.
I don't think it's a lock Notre Dame wins. I want them to. But I don't love the makeup of their team overall compared to like Indiana. But Indiana got their asses kicked in what game did they get their asses kicked?
Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State. Exactly. So I think they're a flawed team too. Every team's flawed. There's even the teams that have a bye, None of them are like that. Those years where Nick Saban's Alabama team or Kirby Smart's Georgia team, even the Georgia team this year, not making me fall off my chair, just guaranteeing them to win. So I'm going Ohio State as well. I think they get it done against the Volunteers. If they don't, we're going to see some changes in Buckeye land, in my opinion. You could say goodbye to Ryan Day. You could say goodbye to probably an entire coaching staff. They'll have a new quarterback next year. The nice thing for Ohio State, if you're an Ohio State fan, if they lose and there's change, you're always going to get 3 5-star recruits at every position, no matter what, because you're the Ohio State University. So you'll be back next year. But I'm picking you in this game against Tennessee. We'll see what happens next week when we preview the next slate of games, because I might not be as kind to Ohio State, but we'll see. We'll see. They come out and blow the doors off Tennessee, I might rethink what I'm thinking. Absolutely. Football is a very week-to-week sport, but I got Ohio State.
By the way, Tom got back to you. He's also 5 foot. I'm pretty sure he meant Gerby, not Gerber, but 5'4".
Wow.
There you go.
Absolutely. And I remember when we looked up the history of Tom and Paula told us that they met on a blind date at a Blackhawks game. Panger was a net for Chicago. So very, very interesting. Frank, it's time for America's favorite podcast segment of the week.
Yeah.
Breaking bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Frank, floor is yours.
Yeah, give me 1 second here to.
Hurry up, dude.
Oh, shut up.
All
right.
About time you get over 50%.
Yeah, you say that every week. You say it every week, VP. We get it.
I hope more of your money's on the wins.
I'd like VP to, make some picks, and I think it'd be fun if you threw some here and there.
Okay.
But
would you keep 4 on the board?
Yeah, I would. You'd probably just have to remind me of your picks. I'd have to write them down afterward.
Yeah, no, I would take care of the accuracy of it. You would just take care of the graphic.
Why don't you start in a new year next year, January?
Okay.
Right? You get a fresh start. I think that's fair.
All right.
All right. So I was looking at the slate of NHL games tonight. There's some great matchups. There really are. There's some value picks between some teams. Could go with Leafs on the road, but nothing was really jumping out. Where it's you gotta take this team in a good value pick. So I'm going kind of with a junkier pick. It's got a little bit of it's got a higher money line. I'm going to go with the Dallas Stars money line home against the Rangers at -180. Yeah, it's juicy. There's a lot of juice there, which, a lot of people shy away from usually. But the New York Rangers, they haven't found any mojo this season. And the Dallas Stars, they're coming off a loss to the Maple Leafs. It's a big opportunity for the Stars to get back on track. The Rangers haven't done anything to prove that they could get a big win on the road in Dallas. We'll take the Stars to dominate in this one. The Stars team's just really too good to lose back-to-back at home, and I don't think the Rangers, who have been so bad, are the team to do that on the road. So I'm going to go with the Dallas Stars money line at -180, bet to win 3 units. Next, college football playoff bowl season. Excited. SMU and Penn State. Just talked about it. I'm going to go at SMU plus 10.5. I think Penn State should win this game, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than what the spread suggests. It all comes down to if SMU is able to run the ball and not turn the ball over. SMU is one of the best running teams in the country, and Penn State's one of the best at stopping the run. So something's got to give in this one. SMU just played a tight game against Clemson, and I think they're going to play another tight game here. I think playing early in their day will benefit SMU as well. I don't know why. I don't have a clear-cut answer for you. I just think a game under the lights, when, the fans, they've had time to wake up and more energy in them. I just think a game under the lights, Penn State would have dominated, I think, won by 30. But because this game's playing at 11 o'clock, I think SMU has what it takes to keep it close. As weirdly as that is, that's what I believe. SMU plus 10.5, minus 137. Bet to win 2 units there. And finally, we're gonna move to football Sunday in the NFL. Season's winding down, right? We're getting down to the meat and potatoes. It's funny, I'm focusing on a game that literally means nothing in the NFL. It's got to do with the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Las Vegas Raiders. Both of these teams, they've been horrible this year. But I think there's some value here on the Raiders at home. I never thought I would say that there is value on the Raiders this year. But I think there's value on the Raiders at home. Desmond Ridder looked decent in their loss to the Falcons. If the Raiders weren't such a terrible team, they probably could have won that game. They should have beat the Chiefs earlier this year if they weren't such a bad teams, but bad teams beat themselves. Jaguars, they're without Trevor Lawrence, and Mac Jones come to save the day, but he really hasn't done any saving. He stinks. This is just a battle of 2 bad teams, but I think Ryder has more upside than Mac Jones. Plus, it's hard to take the Jaguars on the road against just about anybody. So who knows what we'll have in store in this one, but I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders money line at 118, minus 118, bet to win 3 units.
Very good, Frank. I hope you win.
So
I like that SMU pick. I think Penn State wins, but not by 10. I mean, that's crazy.
It's going to be tight, I think.
Do you know off the top of your head what the line is for the Bears-Lions?
No, but I could get it really quick.
If it's more than 7, I'm taking the Bears.
Oh, yeah. Bears always play the Lions tough.
They play them. They're going to lose.
They should have beat them twice last year.
Yeah, well, they're.
But I'm just saying, but they play it. They play them tough. They played them tough this year.
I picked them to get blown out on USA Today.
It's 7, and the Bears are at home. So there you go.
Oh, yeah, no, never mind. I like the Lion.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think I picked the Lion. But I guess
it's not going to be like 14 at home. They're not going to be like.
And lately, I've been liking like the bad teams to cover because most teams cover when they're favored by 7 or dogged by 7 or more. But then I reminded myself they were 10 to the Vikings, and I loved the Bears. And I didn't love them to win, but I loved them to cover, and they didn't cover. They actually, you could have made the line 20, and they still would have lost. So, like, yeah, never mind. Forget what I said. I'm an idiot. Frank, very good show. Love talking this stuff with you. Hopefully the Hawks are able to get 2 road victories before the Christmas holiday. They have the Calgary Flames tomorrow and then the Minnesota Wild on Monday, I think it is. And then, of course, the New Jersey Devils have Pittsburgh tomorrow on Saturday, and they have the New York Rangers during a day game on Monday. So That'll be good stuff. Looking forward to it. To all the people watching at home on the internet, thank you very much for tuning in. If you're checking out on audio, Frank.
And also, happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Very excited. This is the last show before we kind of break into a little bit of a holiday thing. I don't know if we're doing a show next Friday.
I was going to talk to you about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But the thing is, it's the last show before the Winter Classic. So I feel like we got to do something for the Winter Classic. It doesn't necessarily have to be Friday, but we got to get something out there for the Winter Classic. If you go to the Fan Fest before the Winter Classic, you can bump into me and say hello. Very excited to see everyone at the Winter Classic. It's going to be a great New Year's Eve. But first, let's celebrate Christmas. Make sure you and yours love each other. Have a good time around Christmas. Frank, sign off by saying something nice about Christmas.
I love Christmas. It's the season of giving. I love giving. I love putting a smile on people's face. I think it's the best form of medicine for people. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. And I hope everybody has a safe and wonderful rest of their year. And, yeah.
Absolutely. And as always, thank you for listening.